So when you came out, there weren't any there, and you just had to pick a field and hope for the best. And Peter, my second pilot, and I, we saw this lovely big piece of green. We thought, oh, that's fine, we'll land there. To find we'd landed on a village green somewhere in the Newbury area. We'd stopped outside the pub, and the pub was open. So we said, well, that's 100% success, if you like. But our feeling of merriment was quickly subdued because we saw an RAF officer on his bicycle pedalling like fury across this village green to come towards us, so we thought we're in trouble now. But he turned out to be a pilot from Coastal Command, flew Sunderland's. He'd heard about our gliders, and please could he have a look at the glider, and please could he buy us a pint, so that was all right. Anyway, we kept practicing, but they decided that they'd got to do something better to get us up to 6,000 feet in a fairly short time. So we were moved from Briars Norton, where we were at the time, down to a place called Tarrant Ruston, which is down near Bournemouth, not a great distance from here. And we were towed then by big Halifax tugs, and they could whip us up to 6,000 feet as easy as anything, and no bother at all. And so we went down there, and we began to practice at night, landing back on the aerodrome, very much like those mass landings I showed you, on the grass in between the runways. And what happened one night, we took off, and we were flying to the release point. The RAF had worked this out. They worked out where we'd got to be released, which courses we'd got to fly, which would take us into this small field. But one night they let us go in the wrong place, and we could see, although there were no lights on the aerodrome, you could always see a bit at night, and we could see that we weren't going to get into the aerodrome because they'd let us go in the wrong place. So we searched for a field to touch down in, and we did touch down, but we finished up across the local lane, you see. But there you are, we kept going, and gradually we perfected it until we were ready to go. Then, there we go, 11 o'clock, the night of June the 5th, we got ready, got the invasion. Every Allied aircraft in the invasion had those white stripes painted round the wings and the body. And that's the big Halifax that was towing us off, and there's one of the gliders in the background there. And so we took off, 11 o'clock, flew to the French coast. We got there, and the RAF had worked out the courses that we'd got to fly. The navigator called us up on the intercom over the tow rope and said, you know, that's it, off you go, best of luck. We cast loose. Peter, my second pilot, had a little lamp on the tip of his finger and a battery on his belt. He had a map, and he had the courses. And it was up to him. Oh, he had a stopwatch as well. And we had to fly each course for so many minutes and so many seconds. And we flew the first long leg, and then Peter told me to turn onto the second leg, and it was on that crosswind leg that we saw the bridge. And there we are, three of us have arrived. You can see the bridge down the bottom corner there. That's the nearest glider to the bridge, and if you work out that wingspan is 88 feet, you see we weren't a great distance from the bridge. There's the second glider in the middle there, which is mine. I should have been up the top, but apparently when we were going in, that one and myself, we got pretty close together, so we veered off, and I finished in the middle, and he finished up over there. Unfortunately, that lighter patch in front of my glider is a pond, which we went into, and I remember this terrible crash and bash, and the whole front of the cockpit disintegrated. And I realised that I was sort of underwater and didn't think there was much of a future in that, so I struggled out. Apparently I dragged out my second pilot, but then I was concussed, didn't really know what I was doing, staggered about, and I got shot. Whether it was friendly fire or not, we don't know, but they say that it possibly was because I was a bit slow in giving the password, but I don't remember anything. I remember this terrible crash and lots of water, and that's about the end of it. But there we are, we got there, we landed there. Within 10 minutes, the troops had all jumped out the gliders, rushed down to the bridge, captured it. The other bridge, which is just off the picture, had been captured, and within 10 minutes, both of them were in our hands, and everything was safe. That's mine. I'm afraid that's rather bent, isn't it? But there you are. Unfortunately, one chap was killed in the landing. The undercarriage broke off and he got trapped inside. But apart from that, he was the only casualty, which was pretty good. But you could see how they broke up, couldn't you? They were only plywood. If somebody said to you, you're going to fly a wooden aeroplane with no engine, 6 miles in the dark, and land in a field with no light, you wouldn't be too enthusiastic, would you? No. But there you are, we didn't get any choice. That's looking down from the bridge. This was a gun pit by the bridge. And that building that you can see was the local chateau, which was I think it was a maternity hospital at the time. But the trouble was that snipers were up on the roof there, and they were made a bit of a mess of some of the boys. Now that's a bunch of the pilots after they'd got back into England. My second pilot is Peter, the chap in the background there with his steel helmet on, because I think a lot of his kit was still in our glider under the water. And the officer right on that edge of the picture is Brigadier Chatterton, George Chatterton, who was the commander glider pilots. But with the exception of Peter and another chap who lives out in Canada and myself, we're the only 3 left of the 12 that took on did the job. But that's the story of how we took Pegasus Bridge, and I hope you've enjoyed it.
It was suggested that as I had been with my father during the time of the Potsdam Conference, that I should tell you a little bit about it. I had acted as my father's ADC before, notably at the Quebec Conference in 1943, but my mother was there then too. Now I felt doubly responsible, and I felt that the army injunction of be ready 10 minutes before anything, punctual, sober, and properly dressed, was not quite adequate. My mother filled me with awe by her strict instructions to see that your father is punctual and does not go to bed unnecessarily late. The conference was scheduled to be from July the 17th until August the 2nd. The British general election results would be known on July the 26th. The political members of the British Party, therefore, it was planned, would return to England to learn their fate and then return afterwards. Churchill had insisted that Mr. Attlee should accompany him to Potsdam in the eventuality that the election results would precipitate a change of government. And so to ensure a vital continuity of British representation and responsibility in any outcome. What had seemed an elegant and prudent in case was to provide a dramatic but technically seamless and dignified change at the very top.